Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another episode of Islam for Europeans. I'm your host, Robert. Please like and subscribe to the channel. I do apologize I have not made a video in quite some time. Much has happened, since I made my last video. Um, Anyone who's been watching the news has seen that the Assad dynasty has finally fallen. Alhamdulillah, over 50 plus years of horrible absolute repression, torture, mass R word, um, chemical weapons, imprisonment, fear mongering that started with Hafez al-Assad and ended up with his son, who has now tucked his tail between his legs and moved to Russia. The forces that were the opposition, made up of several groups, only took about 12 days to conquer the entire country. Um, and, I wish the absolute best for the Syrian people. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and your victory. You could just see the overwhelming images of joy, of happiness, and tears because, many of their family members have died and they have to look for their remains. And, I hope, inshallah, that this will be a transitional government that will lead to, a place and a country where the Syrian people can rule themselves, or they can have self-determination. So, obviously, for those who've been following, my Twitter, you know, we've been seeing basically the whole event of the Syrian revolution. The people who are on the pro-Palestinian side are basically divided into two camps now, and these two camps are vitriolly opposed to one another. You have the pro-Assad camp. Now, I'll divide this further into two subgroups. You have the hard Assadists and soft Assadists. So the hard Assadists basically think that that Assad was the best thing since sliced bread. That he was a based ruler. He was fighting the enemy. That he was supplying weapons to Hezbollah. Was basically the link or the bridge for Iran to funnel weapons to Hezbollah. And it is for this reason that they, among others, that they're completely opposed to him being disposed. Um, and that's pretty easy to refute. I mean, if you support this man, if you think that he's a good person, that you think that he's good for the people of Syria, you need to get your head checked. I mean, the mountain of evidence showing the chemical weapons use, the torture, not just for the past 50 years, but also just recently in the last days, through the releasing of Sednaya prison, you'd have to have an absolute black heart to support this man. Now, the Soft-Assadists, they'll say that Assad was a bad guy, but in the long run, this is going to be bad for the Syrian people in the whole region, because this will allow Israel to basically take whatever they want. They've already made a buffer zone past the Golan Heights, about 20 kilometers from Damascus, and they believe, like the hard Assadists, that the opposition forces are basically funded by the United States and Israel. So I'm going to address that argument, and some other brothers, more knowledgeable than me, and other Syrians, they, a lot of these talking points are theirs, but I'm going to add my own information to it as well. But to sum up, the Assad dynasty ruled over Syria for 50 plus years, since 1973. They have had complete normalization with the state of Israel. They basically gave up the Golan Heights, and they never lifted a finger to attack them. And on top of that, they weren't attacking Israel. For the longest time, the Syrian government was attacking their own people. Like Israel just bombed Syria's weapons cache and Air Force cache. These planes, which are basically, as old as the movie Top Gun, were only used to gas to attack the Syrian people, right? So to think that Assad is this some sort of like hero and the axis of resistance is just nonsense. And on top of that, he was an opportunist. Like he basically said that, he would sell out the Palestinians for financial gain, right? And this is why, if you talk to many Palestinians on the ground, they do not like Assad whatsoever. I mean, he is a butcher, and many of the people that he was torturing were also Palestinians or Palestinian refugees living in Syria. So no love lost for this man. And for the Soft-Assadists to think that they know what's best for the not just the Syrian people but the Palestinian people is paternalistic. Um, and I could understand maybe some of the Westerners who kind of think this way, that the region is going to descend into chaos. I hope it doesn't descend into chaos. I hope that there's elections. I hope that these groups can bury the hatchet. But we have to remember that Assad fomented this inner hatred between the Sunnis and the Shia and the Christians and the Alawites. It's his fault that that there's this much animosity, mutual animosity, between these two groups. So people who are saying that this is going to plunge the region into chaos. First and foremost, we don't know what's going to happen. Only Allah knows the future. It's up to I do know that couldn't get any worse. I mean, like when you have people being their fingernails ripped off, their genitals electrocuted, people being put to death with an iron press. Um, like it's you can't get any worse. So at least now the Syrians have a chance, to run the country themselves. But even if it turns out that that's not the case, that this was a failure, um, it was Assad that started this whole thing. So they're looking at the egg, but not the chicken. These Soft-Assadists, um, you know, and just from a humanitarian perspective, I mean, uh, the pro-Assad, pro-Palestinian side, the Axis of Resistance side, were made up of tankies, nationalists. You know, they have talked at length about the fact that Netanyahu and his cohorts should be tried at the International Criminal Court. That that they should face justice. Nothing of a whisper about what should happen to Assad. I mean, he should not he be tried at the International Criminal Court as well? Um, and the idea that it's just a devil's bargain, basically. That you said, well, that you want the resistance to win so much that you are willing to sacrifice the life and the blood and the ability to basically live without being under constant fear of being thrown in prison and never seeing your family again, of the Syrians. So all these Assadists, both soft and hard, um, the fact that they're just basically throwing the Syrian people under the bus, for what? To go up against the biggest military juggernaut in the Middle East, and then to ask that of the Syrian people now that their country has been completely destroyed, that, well, it sucks that you have to rebuild your country, but now on top of that, we want you to go up against the biggest military juggernaut in the world. Um, you know, no love lost, for these people. Um, it's great that they're supporting the Palestinian cause in general, but to have this kind of devil's bargain, which isn't even a good devil's bargain, to say that it's, hey, it's terrible what happened to the Syrians, but we're just I would rather you'd stayed in prison and have your fingernails ripped off and your genitals electrocuted and mass raped. Yes, I said the R word. So that we can continue what we feel is going to bring about peace in the region. So I really have no respect for these people. And I hope hopefully, um, you know, put that aside. Put the anger aside and concentrate on the success and the well-being of the Syrian people, which I hope will be in the coming months and years to come. So, that's basically how I feel about that subject. And again, I mean, I'm sure there's people who support Islam for Europeans who disagree with me. I don't want this whole issue to, divide us. At the end of the day, we're an organization, for Muslims of European descent. We wish the best for our brothers and sisters in Islam. from all across the world. Um, our issues aren't really not really, I guess, only tangentially related. I mean, we're dealing with, converts have their own issues to deal with, but at least, we want to keep, the hearts and minds of the Syrian people in our hearts, and pray, for their success and their well-being, just as they prayed, for the success and well-being of us Euro converts to Islam. So, in conclusion, Mabruk, Alf Mabruk, to the Syrian people. I hope that Muslims, Christians, Sunni, Shia, Alawite, even Alawites, the whole country can be united in peace and prosperity. That they have, that this place is their home, and they feel that the joy and the happiness never stops, because this, like Muhammad Hijab said, there was so much bad news for the last 14 months for the Muslim Ummah, that this, is a great victory. And, like, and this is not the support of, of any particular group on my end, like, I'm just glad that Assad is disposed. And hopefully, inshallah, this will be a transitional government. But this is not, this video is not an endorsement of, of any particular political group. I hope that the Syrian people can have, free and fair elections, and be able to practice their, religions in peace and harmony. So that's my time for the day. I'm your host, Robert, at Islam for Europeans. I will be making more videos, inshallah. Please stay tuned for that. But yes, let me know what you think in the chat. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.